Hey, and welcome back to the Stupid Questions podcast. Today, we're going to be talking with Phil Gaimon. This is his round 2 interview. Had him on just over a year ago, and it was fun to see the genesis, or not even more necessarily the genesis, but the continued journey of the life that he's living in the worst retirement ever. Make sure to check out the show notes to check out his YouTube page, obviously his Instagram, and the races that he has going on, like Phil's Fondo and, Phil's Cookie Fondo and the Whiskey Tango Fondo that I did just a few months ago back in April. Also, check out the show notes for any of the ways to support the podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, liking, commenting, subscribing, turning on the notification bell on YouTube, commenting, if I didn't already say that. All those things continue to help grow the pod, and signing up for the newsletter as well. Super helpful. So thank you guys for doing that. This conversation with Phil, it's a great one. Really appreciate him coming on. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to a round 2 interview with Phil Gaimon. Well, Phil, welcome back. So it has been 14 months since I got to talk to you. How you doing?
Well, no, we talked at Whiskey Tango Fondo.
True, we did.
Publicly. Yes. No, it's great to see you, man.
Yeah, you as well. Speaking of, I just saw a release for, I guess you're getting the dates and everything knocked out for the next event next year.
Yeah. Whiskey Tango is on for end of April next year. I believe it's the 25th, 26th, something like that. I should know that offhand.
Yeah. That's all right. You just set the date, so.
There we go. Well, unless I got it wrong.
Yeah.
So we got Cookie Fondo coming up end of October. That's part of the problem is they're both in the 25th, 26th, and I'm not that smart. So go to the website. So we got the road event in October and the gravel event in April.
Cool. I'll make sure to link it in the show notes so people can check it out. So talk me through, because this is one of the questions that I did want to ask you as I was preparing for this. What is it like to plan an event like Whiskey Tango Fondo, or a bigger, I would assume, more logistical one like Phil's Fondo?
Yeah, Phil's Fondo is definitely harder. It's thankfully I have good help, but so I have a business partner in all of it who his name's Ryan. He puts on running events, and he was like a drinking buddy when I first came to LA. Like he rides bikes, but makes a living mostly with like 5Ks and charity runs, stuff like that. And I was kind of like, I had the idea there isn't a mass participation cycling event in LA, and a good friend of mine does that for a living. So we went 50-50 on that. So like my job is to do the sponsorships and talk to people and be the face of it. And like, I'm responding to the emails for the most part. And I have to get the volunteers and all that stuff. But he's the one who shows up at 4 a.m. and puts the stage together and does the hiring and the catering and logistics. So we have a good division of labor, but it's definitely the hardest I work and the most stressed I am I don't pay myself every year for the least money. And every year I'm like, with both events, I'm like, I'm never doing this again the week before. And then after everyone had a good time, and I'm like, fine, as long as I don't lose money, we keep it going. And it is so much fun. I want people to have a good time, and like I can control that manually in this case.
Yeah. Do you find that most of your stress comes from I want it to just go off without a hitch, or are there like financial pressures as well that you're like, we need to hit these goals? Like, what do you think the split is?
It's all of it. It's I guess on the how is it going to make enough money that doesn't lose money, enough people sign up that we're not losing money, and then there's some part of the organization cancels, or some volunteer group can't make it, or there's always like some kind of fires that I can't predict the week of. And then you worry about people, my biggest fear is someone gets hurt in the event and I can't control that. So it's, how the week of I ride all the courses and like I'm taking the rocks off of the pavement myself,
taping pothole circles and stuff.
Yeah, and I'm like making notes for people. For Whiskey Tango, like the county folks are super helpful. So we went there, I think 2 weeks before, and like literally I just sent them like the GPS coordinates of boulders that had fallen in the winter for them to dynamite.
Awesome.
I was like, wait, you'll do that? Yeah, here you go.
Calling in a fire team. That's legit.
Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, we'll blow that up. So, oh, okay, thank you. I didn't know that was a possibility. What else can you blow up for me?
Yeah, seriously.
So it's all that, and then just on the day, like, you're putting on a big party. It's just imagine like you want to make sure everyone has a good time, and and so A, not get hurt, and B, just like nothing's wrong, there's no arrows out of place, and
Mm-hmm.
there's enough food and so I'm just looking around like, is everybody happy, what's,
Yeah.
um
It,
but so far we do it well.
yeah.
um
That's good that you have that confidence, and you've been doing it for a while. But it's always been fascinating for me. From a younger age, I was able to, in the entrepreneurship world, go to like these pitch events, and on
mhm.
the side of like pitching or whatever, you're stressed about just like your own little thing here, and like, oh, am I going to present well? But then I had the opportunity to help put on one of those events, and I was just amazed at how many moving pieces there were, about how much stress can be kind of laid on one's shoulders, but everybody in the audience has no idea. Like, oh yeah, like you said, a fire just happened. Like, oh well, 5 people didn't show up, or we had to get lights the last minute, or had to carry 500 gallons of water to these tanks to
Right.
make it work last second. No, it's
Right.
always
No, it's
interesting.
our, the company that agreed to make espresso, their truck broke on a Thursday, and we need espresso for 1,200 people on Sunday. So like, I'm gonna fix that espresso truck.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
I'll
gonna
show
get
up.
down there with the wrench. I'm gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how that stuff goes.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you feel like your tolerance for handling fires has gotten better since you have started like putting on these events and just doing these things?
at some point you get to, like, we're on year 10, and I just trust that it can be put out. What happens is it gets more expensive as it gets later, but you can kind of throw money at everything for the most part. So I guess that's the answer. I now have faith that I can handle whatever it is. Um, 1 year it was super windy, with just crazy Santa Anas at the road event coming up, and the tents are blowing around. It's like, okay, can't cancel it because people flew in for this. Like, the people are gonna be mad if we cancel it, but it's also significantly harder now. It's, there's a safety element that needs to just be communicated very clearly. Both hands on the bars today, no selfies. All the crashes happen, people taking their hands off, take a selfie.
Same with driving.
So it's that, and then so we canceled the long route. So everyone doing the long route did the middle one instead, and there were no complaints. No one was like,
Yeah.
I want an extra 20 miles.
Yeah.
And then with Whiskey Tango, it's sort of, we now know, we were only on year 3 of that, but we've sort of accepted, like, the route that we plan the winter before will not be the final route, because the winter is going to do some crazy stuff to that area. And we're just going to go out there 2 weeks before and finalize it and figure it out. Because you just never know, like, oh, well, that road is now a river, and that
Yeah.
bridge is out, because it just gets crazy up there, which is part of what makes it cool.
Mm.
But the course is an evolution, and we don't pretend to commit it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, I don't know. I guess it's a fun part of the entrepreneurship part of it, but there's definitely like a dread element to it. A lot of pressure because there's
Yeah.
hundreds of people coming either way.
Yeah. Are you a pretty introverted person? Would you consider yourself to be?
I think I'm good at communicating, but I like to do it a certain way. I don't know. Is it introverted to like write an autobiography? If that feels extroverted, but I also, if I'm in a big group, like I'm gonna go hide in the bathroom for a couple minutes and take a break. I'm not sure. I think anyone who rides a bike, who likes to ride a bike 5 hours a day, there's an introvert element.
Yeah.
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 I'm probably in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, as I've gotten older, I've become more introverted, and I was thinking specifically about that. But the reason I asked that question is, when you put on these types of events, or you are a content creator such as you are, with the notoriety that you've been able to build, I'm curious how you feel, or maybe it's changed over time, when people come up to you and like, oh, Phil, thanks so much for putting on this event. It was the coolest thing ever. You're like the man. And then, or someone's messaging you and they're kind of like,
Yeah.
coming to you with all this stuff. Like, how's the comfortability been with receiving that type of, I guess, affirmation or whatever?
Is it like the volume of conversation is overwhelming on the events, like just the amount, but like everyone's cool, like almost everyone's cool. So that's, cry me a river for having to talk to a bunch of like nice, happy people.
But it takes energy.
Yeah. If it, like year 1, it wasn't super ironed out of the cookie Fondo, and there was a lot of like, hey, just so you know, I've got constructive criticism, and they're going to say the same thing that everybody else already said and that I knew.
Is it on this
Like,
list?
I know we were out of water at aid station 2 for 15 minutes, and it was fine, and there's enough water, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, like, the people, I think I'm a small enough whatever level influence, or whatever the heck, I hate that term, but that's what it's called.
Yeah.
That most of the relationships I have. I can still have personal relationships with those people, and they can kind of give me an amount of leeway that like an actual celebrity might not get. The expectations might be different.
Yeah.
Um,
So you said
yeah.
you don't like the word influencer. I would love to know what comes to your mind when you hear the word influencer that you dislike, and maybe a suggestion for a new type of word or
Well,
label.
influencer is I don't know when I started doing this, that wasn't a word.
Yeah.
You know, I was just a pro athlete. So like there's endorsement value,
Mm-hmm.
and I was sponsored as a pro athlete for the first 3 years of my retirement. That was kind of the title. And then influencer crept in. I remember it was like sponsored by Cliff Bar, and they paid me 50% came from the athlete budget and 50% from the influencer budget. And that was like the first time I heard what that was, and that there's a budget for that. And just like the concept sounds, influencer sounds like you're inherently selling something. And just the fact that you can be an influencer and that's the title, when you should do something that has influence. So be a photographer, be a model, that's fine. Be an athlete, be something that like that generates influence and endorsement value and credibility, versus like I'm striving for this kind of bullshit title that people follow me, and I don't see where the value is in that.
Mm.
It's a tide that I can't fight, and I try to push back on that and not act like an influencer.
Yeah.
Um,
So there's a
yeah,
lot of questions. Yeah, there's a lot of questions around this that I do want to ask, but I'm trying to like order them in my mind in the best ways possible. So if I mess it
sure,
up, forgive me. But here we
that's
go.
fine. Yeah,
So being a content creator, influencer, a person who has like where people will make not only purchasing decisions but really like active critical thinking decisions based on like how you may not necessarily do things. I don't think that's necessarily what all influencers or people who have influence are seeking to do, but unfortunately we are humans and that's kind of what happens. So for
uh-huh.
you in the world of bike racing, you seem to focus pretty heavily on your lane, I guess, like being a professional athlete, bikes, bicycle, accident law, that kind of stuff. Like you get passionate about. How do you choose in a time of like where, especially politics, all this different stuff's coming at you, and people are kind of like, oh, what does Phil think, or what should Phil think? How do you decide what to talk about and what not to talk about?
I guess my lane sort of has evolved from what I cared about is and what my expertise is what people ask me about. So people don't ask me. I don't think people ask about politics a lot, but if I start getting 50 messages in a day of people, hey, what's your thought on this? Then like I guess I should answer that.
Hmm.
Kind of that simple. If my DMs are open. So my lane, my expertise. I think what set me apart as a pro cyclist was the anti-doping stance that for some reason was controversial, still is sometimes, years and years ago. And so I think I'm asked to weigh in on that a
Pretty
ton.
heavily.
And do you think so and so is doing X, and that all of that stuff. So I don't want my entire life to be, I don't think this guy's doping, or I don't that, but I address it when I do the Tour de France podcast, and once a year I'm like, okay, this is the one I'll talk about doping, and I'm not going to
Yeah.
bring it up every day, but here's the one, and I just give the lay of the land and the people that I talk to, and I kind of know. And then you see what the responses are when I talk about cycling advocacy. Those videos do well, and that obviously means something to me.
Yeah.
And that goes down to like, Shimano versus SRAM.
Yeah.
What's better, and people respect that opinion too.
Yeah. Mm. So one more question kind of in this vein.
Mhm.
Obviously, like anyone listening to this right now, there's just so much going on in the world, from Gaza to this Charlie Kirk thing to
Right.
everything else. And like everybody's feeling like these just intense emotions on both sides. For someone like you, because I'm a very small fish. And so the people who I can quote unquote influence or that my voice matters to are like my close friends, family, maybe a few small other people. But for you, like that's obviously a lot more people. When you see something that is outside of your lane that makes you feel like an intense emotion, what do you do, or what do people do you think in your position do to like offload those emotions in like a way that isn't necessarily in a public forum? Like, do you ever think about those types of things?
Yeah, I probably weigh into politics and stuff more than most like pro athletes, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of that is like I was never I was never a pro athlete in proportion to my voice. If it's hard to explain that, like what my level as an athlete was here, my social following was always here, like kind of
Yeah,
one
makes
notch
sense.
above. I batted above my weight for whatever reason because I was writing and talking and sharing. Um, so I think
Likable
people kind of
personality.
built a
Yeah.
connection. Yeah, whatever that is, that people connected with me in a certain way, and that was, I think, from being clean. There's like, that extends to other parts of life. Um, so I think like, I don't want to, when you open your feed yesterday, it's it's
Everything's the same.
Charlie Kirk head to toe. Well, nobody asked me about that one, so I can just stay quiet. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of thoughts and no one cares, and I'm not going to add to that conversation. I think like around the last election, there's like, okay, I'm going to say it once so I don't feel like I'm a coward. Like I'm going to say
Mm,
one time, like, I don't think Donald Trump is great for America. And I feel like if I hid that opinion because I was afraid I would lose followers, that would make me kind of a coward and a hypocrite, something in that Venn diagram. So like I'm doing it for me and more than I think I'm going to sway any of the
mm,
100,000 people who followed me. And that's going to build a closer connection to the people who do agree with me. And I did lose a bunch of followers, but the people who agreed with me and like they're a little bit closer. And that's kind of a lot of athletes, Michael Jordan's both sides sell shoes, that was a different time. I wonder if he would act the same now, or and
mm.
I don't necessarily judge it. I don't value capitalism over over everything. But if you need it to survive, that's kind of a different conversation.
Conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always I feel very strongly kind of aligned with you in that. I guess I'll say this, like I really dislike, or it really hurts my heart to see whenever somebody shares an opinion, they're like, you are not worthy of my friendship as a human. And it's like, and it's oftentimes with people like, for example, if you said that, I didn't actually vote, but I probably would have voted for Donald Trump. But even though knowing like you didn't, I can't stand, or I don't understand. It's really hard for me to wrap my head around like how you can disassociate or completely wipe someone off just because they like disagree on one of these things, which can quote unquote be fundamental, but still there's like a human behind that. And you were raised by your parents, and we were all little kids, and we had these experiences, and we kind of grew in these different directions. And there's so much more value I feel like in having that conversation and being able to talk to somebody to hear why they think differently, because my mind has been changed on a lot of things. I used to be so staunchly black and white kind of after my
Yeah.
quote unquote conversion in college, and then now 10 years later, and I say like conversion is like in a religious context, but or spiritual context, but now like I'm way more gray, and I'm like almost embarrassed of the person I was before. But people change, and whenever you
What was
meet
your
them,
what was your conversion? I'm interested.
yeah, so I grew up. My mom and dad, they were first generation, I guess, really Christians, you could say. So
Okay.
dad was kind of grew up on the streets, was doing some drug dealing, didn't know his dad. Mom was in a bad way, so he was like kind of all over the place. And his grandmother converted him, like was like, "Hey, you should come to church with me," and he did, and that ended up being a Seventh-day Adventist Christian. He met my mom, and my mom was kind of Baptist, didn't really go to church, and dad was like, "Hey, you got to be this, or we're not getting married."
Mm.
So I grew up with this. 1 month we're very religious, and then the next month we're
Oh,
like, dad has a keg in the fridge and he's drinking a ton, and another day like he destroyed the house because he was so drunk, and then the next week he's really diving into his Bible. So it was like this I got to see a lot of color of where people can be on the spectrum.
right.
So for me, I got a little bit older. So my dad passed away when I was 16. I'll go through this relatively
Yes.
quick.
Yep.
So that threw me for a tailspin of like, because I was a late bloomer, so I'm like trying to figure out, well, what does it mean to be a man? How do I be a dad? My sisters are looking at
Mhm.
me like I'm their dad. I'm not their dad, but I have like this inner, oh, I need to be there for them. But I had no idea what that looked like. Even my
You're the
mom,
oldest.
yeah, so I was the oldest. So I'm going through that, and then went to the Philippines for a year to be a
Mm.
student missionary. So with our school, it's similar to the Mormons. It's not required where you have to go be a student missionary or a missionary somewhere, but you have the opportunity. So I felt called just through some really amazing circumstances where this girl who was on our campus was like, "Hey, you should go be a student missionary in the Philippines." And just some things had happened in that past week that I think made my mind very open to any type of a possibility. So I said yes, and my school bill got paid anonymously by someone for the rest of the year, and then sponsored all of my costs for the next year. I got a job for the summer to make some money that was in walking distance of where I was staying for free from one of my coach from gymnastics. He let me stay in his house for free. So it was very
Okay.
clear to me, like, okay, the universe, God, something is telling me like this is what I should do. So I
Right.
went to the Philippines, and to be completely honest, I had gotten to a lot of addiction, specifically around pornography, and just I started drinking a little bit, smoking, doing some not so great drugs. And as I got there, I realized, I thought like I could kind of leave all those things behind. And I got there and I realized, oh, wow, like all my addictions, all my problems, all my skeletons follow me wherever I go in the world. And I found myself on my back, crying in the middle of this construction zone, in the middle of the night, in the middle of a typhoon. I kid you not.
Wow.
Not to be too explicit, but just like going to watch porn. And I did that. And I realized like if I don't stop this now, like I think that my personality, I will continue down this path to go and try to find this high no matter what. Because I'm a very driven person. And I realized if I didn't make a change, it could kill me, it could kill someone else, it could hurt people. And so at that moment, like not everyone has these, but I just was like very like, okay, I need to turn the other direction. So I went hardcore the other way. Like, I'm no longer eating meat. I'm only eating raw vegetables. I'm
Yeah.
only going to
Interesting.
read the Bible. Just like, if
Yep.
you're familiar with Bible stories, I was ready to go and almost kill anything or do anything for the sake of this cause.
Okay.
And so I went to college, and I got a bit of a reputation for that. And as I got older, I realized you can't force anything on anyone, even if it's true, even if it is 100% the right thing. You can't force it on
Right.
anyone, and everyone's on a journey. So I've since like I'm a lot quicker to think and before speaking and try to figure it out. And doing this podcast now for 200 episodes almost, I'm like, wow, everybody has an amazing experience and a perspective that adds value to how I see the world. And I think that's like where true wisdom can come from. So that's my long-winded story of
Okay.
the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. That's exactly right. That everyone's got their own journey and their own personal stuff and wherever they come from that drives you can try to empathize with whatever draws a person to a certain thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then the judgment is like, well, does that make them hostile because they do XYZ?
Yeah.
Does that make them irredeemable, or can they whatever?
Yeah.
There's definitely been people who I've drifted apart from for whatever beliefs, if they get too loud about it or they don't want to
Mm-hmm.
respect mine, that kind of thing. And that's part of it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's, there's relationships, like there's some that are lifetime and there's some that like are really good for a time and place. And then, people change, people evolve, and
Mm.
maybe I change one direction or whatever. And that's like part of adulthood too, is me making peace with some of those, and like, not gonna be sad about, it was X good years that we had doing this, and you're on your journey and that goes one way, and maybe we connect another time,
Yeah.
and not like burning bridges.
Yeah.
Um,
That can be hard to do. Yeah, figuring out, like, I feel like that's an art form or a skill or whatever you want to call it that is pretty hard to hone in on. At least it has been for me to. And I think I'm starting to figure it out a little bit more about how to disagree with someone in such a manner that they know, like, I still like you. I still love you as a human. Like,
yeah,
yeah, that's like a difficult
yeah,
thing.
I don't know. I haven't figured out either.
I don't think anyone has.
There's some hits and some misses
Yeah.
in my life on that,
Yeah.
but I don't know. At some point, like, I feel like every year I end up like I collect more friends, and there's some that like you keep forever, and it's like, oh, we're life teammates is kind of a term that I have. Like I have teammates every year from racing. There'd be one or two that just like, oh, I don't care if I switch teams. Like, you and I are still talking, once a week.
Yeah.
And at some point, like, that's a lot of time to invest in each of those, and it's worth it.
Yeah.
But you can also kind of let some go in a way that like doesn't have to be a fight.
Yeah.
Just be like, yeah, this is where I'm going to prioritize now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think it makes it much harder now because we live in an age where, even though it's kind of artificial connection, you can be connected with someone halfway across the world. And there are plenty of people who could quote unquote be, I think, like a best friend type, but because of the way that we're so connected, it's like we feel this pressure to have more people in our inner circle, when in all reality, I think that in the best form, it's like we live in this small town. We kind of all support each other in a way, and like we can be there to supply each other's needs. At least that's how it was like prior to this stuff. So I'm definitely seeing that through a different lens. But.
Yeah, like social media it's funny because like I make a living on it, but Instagram is still, I think, the least hostile. And
Mm-hmm.
you look around, like I pulled up, if I pull up threads, I got off X, whatever, a year and a half ago when it just got terribly toxic, and threads was a little bit nicer, and I already had it was 2 clicks and there you are.
Yeah.
And it kind of broke the addiction. I used to have just like refreshing Twitter. And
Yeah.
as Twitter slowly just got more into this ragement stuff, and now threads just copy pasted that playbook. They got enough users, and now I go on there and it's like,
Rage bait.
it knows that I took my dog to the coffee shop yesterday because I posted about a pup cup, and my feed is full of, I hate people who bring their dogs to coffee shops. And it's like, that's you only put that there, threads, because you know that will bother me. And like, why am I voluntarily opening this app that doesn't make me money and doesn't make me happy? And that times everything political. It's whatever you're into, it will find people who hate that, and it will put that in your face because somehow they make money on it. And if you think about like what that would do to humans on a whole, it's so disgusting that it can happen, and that it works. And then you can just zoom out and see how it works in everything else in society. And like, well, that's, you could pull the blame pretty quick on where that falls, and it's a bummer. And it's just like, I don't know what to do about it, but it makes me sad.
Yeah. No, I totally understand. And, the algorithms, all of these systems were made by a man, but they're like their only job really when they program them into these apps is like how to keep engagement high so we can keep ad dollars rolling in. So, and you follow it. But now it's so interesting because in this AI world, it's trained on all of our past words, written, spoken. And so when there's this expectation that we have, like for this conversation on AI safety, it's like, I don't think you guys get it. You're training it on everything that is flawed about us humans. What do you think is going to come out long term? Like,
just going to amplify whatever's already there and whatever's worse, be it racism or violence. It's interesting, like for, because my job is YouTube now, is like, that's my main thing. And so essentially, like, you're serving an algorithm, and there are shortcuts to that. If you look on YouTube, you can see like the effort people put into thumbnails, and like, if you want more views, put some boobs in your thumbnail. And like, well, I'm not going to do that, and unless my boobs look good in the photo. But like, there's so much stuff where like suddenly you're working for an algorithm if you do it a certain way, and you take these shortcuts, and it's like, I don't want to do that. Like, I'm going to just cost my own growth. And once in a while, like, I do the cycling advocacy videos, and those end up doing really well because there's a rage element to it. Like last year it was a year and a half ago, I was stopped by what was it, a sheriff in Malibu, and told that I needed to ride, that it was illegal to ride two abreast, and it's not. And he was such a dick. Like, he was an absolute dick. And it was like 5 minutes in, I was like, dude, I have to film you if you keep saying stuff like this. And here we go. And it's like, I don't want to do this. And like, I'm going to make 28 million people watch you. Like, I don't want to do this. And I didn't say that I didn't do who I am, but I was like, I know that this is going to get a ton of clicks, and I'm going to make my money back on the 2 days I have to spend in court for this. Like, I'm going to get it back. And I'd really rather not. I'd really rather you just listen and look in your fucking book and find out that like, it is legal to ride two abreast. But no, we have to do this. And here we go. But that's there, and YouTube is ready for it. And there's just a million ways to make it worse.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the world changes in the next few years.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's going to be terrifying.
Should we move to start our own island?
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about like being a creator, because a lot of people, and I'm speaking to the younger generation here for some of them that do listen, but I think it's an important thing to hear from somebody who has made it on some level to like where you can make this your living, breathing job. Like, this is your focus now. This is how you get through life. Maybe not primarily, but it's one of the things. Can you demystify it a little bit and tell people, because everyone can see why they should do it, but maybe why they shouldn't? I mean, I spent my whole career as a pro cyclist. I fell for it. You look at what pro cycling is when you're me and you're 22 and you're dumb and you don't know anyone who's a pro cyclist, and you think like, oh, if I get on that team, like those guys look like they're totally making a living, And then I'm 23 and I'm on Jelly Belly, and my salary is $2,000 for the year, and my teammates are all living with their girlfriends on couches. And
well, oops,
Yeah.
like I didn't know what I was getting into. That's kind of on me. But there's also part of me kind of felt betrayed by people not being honest. There's like a lifestyle forgery in influencering, in pro athletes, and all of it. Like, just how many influencers actually have a trust fund and don't make any money?
Mm.
And I think it's a lot of them. And there's gravel. I see it. I see a lot of it, and I can see right through it because you've got 10 logos on there, and like I know what those logos pay and don't pay. Like I can look at your sponsors. I can be like, that guy's making $12,000 and acting like it's 200,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not necessarily like on him to display and be honest about, but it's also like the people who are striving to race gravel
Yeah.
they're chasing this false thing that I once chased, and it cost me a few years of my life. Like, I would have done things differently had I known what the actual domestic racing ladder was when I was climbing it, that it wasn't really there. So I think, so I would say the same about content, stuff like that. Look at, I think, a lot of people, like a lot of people have family money, I just start there. And that's the easiest way to do it. And, they get a free t-shirt and post about it, and it looks like that t-shirt brand gave them $10,000 and they just sent them a t-shirt.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to the content thing and the influencer stuff, like I started from third base in that I was a pro cyclist. So I already had relationship with sponsors, and I had credibility, and I had endorsement value again before influencer was a word. So I was able to go like, hey, I want to try this. I want to do this thing. And the sponsors that I already had were like, oh, we should probably be on this internet. This is 2014 and the bike industry was, they're a good 5 years behind everything else. But like, a lot of the bike brands didn't have Instagrams at that point, or they did, but they didn't have content. I didn't know what to do. And I was a way to like check that box. Oh, if Phil's good on this thing, I have 20,000 followers, which was a lot at the time. And they're like, okay, Phil can check that box. So we feel like we're doing something. And then I kind of built it from there, but I had to sort of show one by one that social media has value, that there were sponsors who were just like, I'm not going to pay you for that. And I'm like, why would you pay? Like, you're willing to pay a pro cyclist who's pack fodder $5,000 to wear your shoes, and he's not going to win anything. This video I did, 90,000 people watched it. It wasn't me and a pack of people with one shoe coming by. It's just me. Like, if that's not worth more to you than this, then like you should really like, how is Ineos not accountable to show you value, but I have to prove it? It was a weird, and that still happens to an extent.
Yeah, you had to like re-educate the
like
system.
you're teaching these marketing managers one at a time that like, hey, but here's what a platform is, and here's what that is. And a lot of them like, you just do one test post for free. I'm like, no, I'm not going to just post about your thing and like whore you out to my audience just in case, just to show you that I'm worth something. Like, no. But I had that conversation 8 million times.
That's interesting. So what is one of the biggest challenges you think of being a creator in today's world and market that you would have never seen coming when you started this back? How long has it been now? Like 10 years?
Yeah, I'll be on year 10 of worst retirement ever, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
I've retired for a living longer than I raced for a living.
Yeah.
There's just great ironies with all of it. Like, it's so funny to zoom out and look at it. And I'm really like grateful that it worked, and grateful. A lot of that was my own work and hustle that got paid on a really weird back end. I wasn't compensated for my level of racing, and I kind of
sacrificing yourself.
Yeah, it was just like I had nothing for my 20s, and everyone else would have stopped there, and I kind of like fell into this other thing that was good. So it's the hardest thing, I guess. I mean, I think that's what's honest. I think people look at like, oh, you're a YouTuber, and they heard about the 7-year-old who makes $4 million a year making slime, and they think that you make money from YouTube. And like, I thought when I started YouTube, that was me. Like, I started a YouTube channel, same thing. I got into pro cycling. I'm like, oh, those guys are making money. I could do that. Yeah. And then, I get to 100,000 followers, and it's like, oh, YouTube paid me $18,000 last year. That's not where the money comes from. That's, I better figure. And I knew that. I figured that out pretty quick.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I'll be a TikTok creator, and it's like, it's super hard to go viral. It's more competitive. Think of how many people are creating content on YouTube. That's how you got to separate yourself from that. Like, you've got to be really good either at storytelling or at in my case, riding a bike, I'm better at that than I am at editing, but I've had to like get a lot better at editing the last couple of years. Like I've
Yeah.
really had to figure that out. And I'm still not that good, but if you look at my stuff from 2-3 years ago,
There's a
I look like
progression.
a vegan comparison. Yeah. So it's work. I guess like everything else, it's work.
Yeah. What keeps you going with this particular line of work, though?
I really like, I really believe in cycling as a way to save the world. I think like it's the same way like your religious conversion. I think like I don't have any religion, but I kind of found bikes and that fixed a lot of things that were wrong in me
Hmm.
from a certain age. Like I was just kind of a fat, grumpy, depressed, not doing great in school kind of thing and 17. I was like, I just go start riding my bike to school, and suddenly like I lost weight, I was healthier, uh I was going to get a girlfriend somehow. Like at least there was hope for it.
Mm-hmm.
uh I swear I got smarter. I swear like just and there's evidence to like exercise is good for your brain,
Oh yeah, for sure.
but there's just everything kind of clicked into place when I started riding a bike. And it was and then thankfully I was also good at it and able to compete and race and all that. So I guess that's what I believe in, kind of evangelizing in whatever way that suits people, be it like riding to work or trying to perform at a certain level, as long as like they don't have expectations of winning the tour, because that's hard.
Yeah.
But if you do it the right way and you learn the process and you learn hard work and all that stuff, it translates.
Have you almost
Yeah.
quit at all? Ever have some moments where you're like, I'm done with this?
Every year
Yeah.
when I was racing, it was just so hard, and it's crazy to look back, and like I never really had other options. But I was I was always this close from being forced to quit. It wasn't really an option. It was just like, well, I'm not going to get a team. No, like there's no teams. I'm not going to be able to make a living. I'm not going to get by.
Yeah.
And like slowly I figured that out. But I was never on more than up to age 26. Like my salary, first year pro, $22,000, $12,000, $12,000. My contract the next year was for 18, but the team folded halfway through, so I had to live on 9. And when you think you can live on 18, it turned into 9. Like I figured out how to live on 18. 9's a whole other ballpark. So prize money, selling bikes, selling my socks at the end of the year on eBay, and writing a blog. Just all these like 8 million hustles. And at some point I was like, the world's going to tell me this isn't going to happen anymore, and it never quite did. And kind of the same with retirement and racing. There's always like, okay, this is undeniably working, and what else am I going to do?
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, have you ever like truly considered quitting worst retirement ever, and like being like, I think I'm done with this?
I think at some point, it's going to evolve. Like I like my audience. I like sharing what I'm doing. Like as long as I can do interesting stuff, I'm going to want to share it, or I'm going to have something to say no matter what. So like however that looks, and it's a lot easier to monetize YouTube than you think YouTube is hard. Try writing a book, at least, or try getting paid to write a book. That was really hard too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always wanted to like grow it and pivot it and make it something bigger. I feel like I could do better, or there's more voices out there that deserve to be shared. Like there should be. I always feel like GCN is like a big business, but they're way too much in Europe and the UK, and they're way too race centric. And I've wanted to expand, but I don't really know how. So like something the answer is no. If there was an option that made sense that I could like kind of keep sharing what I believe in and doing and somehow make that bigger or better. But no one's gonna give me a job at this point that is worth quitting for. That's the other thing. I have an English degree that's 20 years old,
Yeah.
18 years old. So I don't know who's hiring that.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about something like it that's kind of out in the mist, like you want to grab for, but you're not sure what it looks like. What are some of the things that are just like truly like practically the unknowns? Because you're talking about maybe a brand build or pivoting the audience. Like, is there specific areas that like you're really unsure about? Because it seems like for someone like you with the sponsors, everything, you could come up with a new brand, maybe work with a few personalities, to kind of focus or hone in on one particular direction. But
Yeah. It's, I mean, it's interesting because like every sponsor wants something different or sees me in a different way, sees a different box that I check. So that's something that I have to kind of balance. But most of them sort of just see me as like an additional pro athlete at this point. But I think what I zooming out, what I didn't realize at the time, but what I did in Worst Tournament Ever is I showed that you can be a pro cyclist without being on a team, without going to races, that you can still perform at a high level in whatever context that is. And that was before gravel was kind of big. And I've never done I've done a couple gravel races, but that's never been my thing.
mm-hmm.
And part of it, when I stopped racing, I was like, there's no way I'm going to let my living depend on where I place in this thing. Cause that's terrible. Like that was a terrible life that I was not looking to perpetuate into my 30s. But so what I did show is, yeah, you could be a pro athlete without being on a team. At least pro cycling, that was not a thing then, that you could pick up your own sponsors and be valuable to them and retain them. And I think the next iteration of that is that you can be a pro cyclist without being fast. I turned 40 next year. I'm going to be fast for 40. This year I was 12th on Galibier. Like I was pleasantly surprised at that, but I know which direction that's going. And, so Ian Boswell took my KO on Mount Washington like a month ago. And people are like, he only got you by 13 seconds. You go back and get that. And I'm like, no, I gotten slower since I was 36. like, there's no, hey, Ian was always better than me at this thing. Like I raced him in many times and he was always here and I was always here. Like that was for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
That's not to say I'm not good, but like, I'm not gonna be better than I was at 36. I'm never PRing anything again. If I put in a good effort on it, I'm just going to go slower moving forward. So like, what's that going to look like? But I still think I can be a professional and I think I can be healthy and fit and have stories to tell, when I'm 50, still doing this and still be valuable to sponsors, whether I'm 12th on Galibier or first in my age group on Galibier, whatever that is.
Has it been hard for you to start to accept your mortality as you've gotten older? Because you are like a high achieving, pretty fast athlete.
No, pro cycling took care of that.
Really? Like,
any sense of like ego that I had around my own, and that was part of like I think what resonated on Strava was, I was the best climber in the US for 2-3 years when I was racing domestically, and that got me a spot at Europe. And so at 28, I'm doing the best power numbers of my life, and I'm 2 switchbacks behind Contador, and it was like, oh,
there's more. Yeah.
This is the best I've ever been, and there's no way I'm getting to that. There's no way. That came pretty quick. So, I went from team leader to bottle boy, and there'll be no argument for me that it should be the other way. And I think like honestly, when I came out of pro cycling, my take at that time was like, I'm not good enough. And that was kind of, there was an element of truth to that for sure, that I wasn't undeniably, I wasn't so good that every team wanted me. But looking back at like still doing something world class every year, 9 years later, and I haven't even had like a race to train, like I know I'm not putting in the training that I used to. And like the best training is racing. I've had 0 race days. It's like, yeah, they could have had me on for a few more years. I deserved more opportunities than I had in racing. And I'm realizing that, but as far as like, there was no, I'm the best or any of that.
Yeah.
And it's easy when I look at Strava, like every KOM I ever got was like, well, I know 30 guys who can go faster up that the second they try.
Yeah.
I never let my ego get attached to it. I think Strava needed that at the time. I think that was part of what Strava was pretty toxic and overly competitive and big fish, small pond stuff, in 2017.
Yeah.
And I'm on there and I'm like, you guys think you're good? Like,
so you went around and actually started take KOMs. Yeah.
That was like the genesis of it. It was like you guys think you're good. Like, I'm not even good enough for the world tour. I shouldn't, like, I'm only here because I got dropped too much over there. And like, God, I'm way faster than all you guys. Get over yourselves, like, go have fun.
Yeah, it's interesting how the ego is usually the biggest when you aren't the worst, but like some of the people who are, I guess, easiest to look up to, and I don't know if this is an accurate statistic, but it seems like a lot of the highest end world-class people, most of the times, because like even, for example, I was down in Santa Cruz this last weekend for a race, and one of my friends went and rode with the USA cycling guys, and I guess Sean was there or excuse me, not
Hmm.
Sean, Quinn was there, and
Yep.
he said, yeah, like these guys were so nice. Nobody had an ego. Nobody's half wheeling anybody,
Oh
and they're
no.
all just leaving me in the complete dust. And he's like, that's actually what it's about. Is like the big guys, the ones that are silent, are the cool. Like those are probably the most powerful ones.
Yeah. No. When you're riding downhill with no one goes slower downhill than a world tour rider on a training ride.
Yeah.
Like just the people that I like that I've run into on a Tuesday in Malibu versus like when Sean Quinn comes home and we get a few rides in every winter. It's always because I always get dropped on downhills when I'm just riding with buddies here because I'm not going to rip down that, the road's not open or like
Yeah, it's not
there's
close.
driveways.
No
I'm
reason
not
to
doing
risk your
that.
life.
And it's always like a little bit like, man, have I lost my nerve? Like I know I could go harder, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
And what is that? And then you go ride with world tour guys, and it's just like, nope,
Yeah.
that's I feel safe following that wheel.
Yeah.
It's always really funny. It's like, okay, no, I've degaslit myself every 11 and a half months.
Yeah, it's cool as I've gotten a little bit older. So I've only been like truly, in love with cycling and triathlon, I guess, for like 5 years now. And just viewing myself and how I rode now or then versus now, and then seeing some of the younger guys that I ride with and how they ride, it like reminds me of myself. And it's always fun to kind of, I don't know, give
Yeah.
little pointers like, hey, man, like we're all just out here. Like you don't have to go
Yeah.
smash yourself on every potential sprint section. Like we're just chilling out here.
Yeah. You don't have to win the training ride.
Yeah.
Have you found that I believe the answer is yes, but I want that you've moved the addiction from negative things has that translated to the sport?
Yeah, so for me particularly, it was a little bit more than that. It really circled around identity. So after that, like moving away from the addictions, I was 7 years clean, and then right now, I think I'm like 3 months clean specifically from those things, but they came back,
Mhm.
and it's usually when there's some type of an identity crisis internally for me, and then I'm going to that for comfort. But it's different in different seasons of life. Sometimes it's comfort, sometimes it's control, whatever. But for me now, specifically with the sport, I came into triathlon right after, said 2020, right when COVID happened, because I was making these insulated camping hammocks, or my manufacturer was making them in Asia. So I had this small business making camping gear.
Mhm.
And when that ended, it shook me for a while. Like I knew for a while I wanted to move to something else. But because when I started that in college, it was like the first thing that I kind of put out there that people fell in love with. So I was like, oh, they love this about me. So this is what I'm going to do. And I
Mhm.
became known for that. It became my little platform. And like I saw value in myself only through that. So I felt kind of painted into a corner, but COVID happened and then I felt lost. Like my identity was like shaken. I was like, well, who am I really? How do I reinvent myself? What do I do next? And as I started to figure out some stuff to do for business, for money, that wasn't really fulfilling it, but it really came from a negative place. First was like, well, with triathlon, I can control every aspect of it, thinking that naively. I can control my training. I can control how fast I go, all this. And then after about 2 years, I realized, okay, well, I'm married to the numbers, power numbers, running numbers, training data numbers, and I lost the love for it and it just being what it is. And now it has become the healthiest thing for me. It keeps my mind sharp. I can go out in the morning here, ride 40 miles up to Shasta Dam, see a bobcat, or hear a bird sing in the right way, or see a ray of light come through the trees in a way, and it just like touches me and calms my soul. So now it is very much a fulfilling thing. It's a lifestyle beyond if I race. Because like this past weekend, I had a race, and my watch died on Friday. A year or two ago, I would have freaked out because I use my watch for everything.
Yep.
I'd be like, it's over. But I just was like so free. And I talked to a couple, bigger pros like Jackie Herring, and she's like, oh, that's the best way to race. And some of the pros, that's all they used to do. It's like, okay. So I went out and I like gave it my all with the most positive mindset, going up the PCH as the sun's rising, hammering my legs as hard as I could and running as fast as I could, not knowing my pace or speed or anything the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I finished, kind of bent over, looked back at the finish line, I was like, oh, that's a pretty good time. But who cares? Like,
Yeah.
it was in a lot of respects, it was a PR in all the ways, but it didn't matter because it was like, oh, I'm experiencing this in the moment. Like I feel all the pain. I feel all the good. I hear the people. Like it was just, I'm not looking at my watch every 5 seconds. So yeah, it really is now, I guess.
So from doing it maybe the wrong way, you've stumbled into things that you found it the right way. Like, yeah. Do you find that you're addictive in other aspects of life, or have you funneled it into exclusively, like if it's all your addictions into this, or all that energy, the control, all that stuff into one thing? Or are you like that with?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think I have a fully scoped out answer for that other than to say, I just had my 33rd birthday 2 days ago.
Happy
And
birthday.
thanks, man. And my wife's pregnant of 17 weeks.
There you go.
Yeah. And so I'm like in this stage of life where I'm becoming more emotional, and I'm like almost getting emotional talking about this. But, it's like this was the year that I have been alive longer without my dad than I was with my dad.
Mm.
And so I feel like this heavy sense of I am now who I am in the absence of him, because of all of the collective people that have like poured themselves into me and have shown me what it looks like to, I guess, for like you're saying, what things to pour my energy into. So
Yeah.
now, like the most important thing for me is my relationship with my wife. Even though we are imperfect people, like I want to, in the best way possible, find out the things that I can practically do and the things I can practically think to make her life happy. And triathlon, it keeps me mentally fit so that I can do what I really love, which is like kind of help people. I do some small business like coaching
Cool.
/ interim COO work. And I love obsessing over like organization and process improvement and just being really like frank and honest with people about, hey, these are the areas we need to move forward in. These are the things we have to have the conversations about, even though it's so uncomfortable, so that we
Mhm.
can become better. So yeah, I don't know if that really answers your question, but that's kind of
No, it's
where I
interesting.
felt.
Like I found like this is my example of that. Like, you play games, board games, like sports, whatever. And like I was always not Michael Jordan sociopathic competitive, but like I wanted to win if I was playing basketball with my friends, if I was playing, like I was into computer games,
Yeah,
and like,
same.
a ton of Counter-Strike, stuff like that. And like that was I was competitive. And then from bike racing, it maybe it's just like I won a lot of races, so like I checked that box, but I'm competitive at nothing anymore. Like it cured me. I don't
Mm,
care if I win the board game. I don't care like if there's money on the line. I'd rather win if we're playing poker.
yeah,
But for the most part, like if it's like anything, and it's funny when I'll play, I'll go bowling with someone, and like I'm not looking at the score. I don't like, are we having a good time? Like I
yeah,
can't imagine preferring to win or not in
yeah.
certain contexts
Mm,
that it wasn't like that before. And so like whatever that competitiveness, and there's definitely an addiction for me that I don't think I feel with anything else. I have like, there's things that I can't turn off that, I'm not good at, like relaxing. That's kind of an element of that. There's like a work part
like
that
up
but
here, turning this off.
yeah, turn
You
my
mean?
brain. Like right now, I decided before I finished filming my last video for this year, and my Fondo is in 6 weeks. So I decided to like take my off season now. So I'm gonna
Mm,
like start building back up, and then it's better to make videos in December, January when racing isn't happening. I'm not competing against racing on YouTube. So like I kind of moving my season forward. So I'm taking 3 weeks off the bike, which I haven't done in forever. And well, now I'm on the roof trimming trees. It's like, why
yeah,
can't I just sit down?
yeah,
So that's there. I don't know what to call that, but I've noticed the competitive thing was always interesting to me. It's just like I do not care who wins this board game
yeah,
or this card game, and I didn't used to like stamp away and be mad, but like I'd be ruthless in Monopoly. You know
yeah,
what I mean? When I was 15,
yeah,
like I'd have my sister crying at Monopoly,
yeah.
uh, and I just I'll roll the dice, see what happens.
Yeah, that's interesting with the competition side of things, because I have noticed in myself I've become less competitive. But it's like if competition is like this spherical ball, it's like it's been cut in half and it's slowly kind of falling off, and I have still like half of that competition left, because when certain like I've become more competitive now in things that I know I can be good at.
Mhm.
Like with that race on Sunday, as I'm kind of trying to just chew through this, I was competitive with myself. I wanted to do well, but I had no idea what place I was in until the very end, and that was like really okay with me. But then
Yeah.
in other areas, like we were playing a card game last night with my wife and my friend who's staying with us, and I was like, I'm just terrible for like smack talking for fun and all that.
Right.
I
Yeah.
really wanted to win, but it's not the same. Like I don't get upset anymore if I don't perform how I think I should at a race. It's like there's so many variables in life, whether you're racing, whether you're giving a presentation, whether you're, I don't know, disciplining a child, that go into like how you will perform in that moment. And
Yeah.
I've really become okay with saying, well, if I don't understand why I didn't perform how I think I should, that's okay. There's peace in that. And I don't think I'm, no, and no one expects me to do that. So I chased
Right.
perfection for a long time. And I think that's the absence of the dad thing for the longest time. It was like men who I respected or looked up to for whatever reason, even subconsciously, I was doing whatever I could to impress them, for them to
Huh.
look it, to see me. And it created a lot of really tough moments with some of my best friends because their fathers would, this happened like 3 or 4 times, where they would compare me to their son in front of their son, and I knew that like destroyed them. But
Yeah.
selfishly, like I felt good, and I was like torn, like, oh, this is not it. I need to quit this.
Hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
partly their fault, partly my fault. Like there's a lot of variables, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I watch bike racing now, and like you see, you'll hear clips. They'll have like riders mic'd up, and somebody's yelling at somebody, and this guy Remco told Tom Pidcock to grow some balls, and I see that, and I'm like, I remember being that guy. Like I made a lot of how I made money as a when I was in the US still was like just doing small local races is called, but there's 3 of them every weekend, and prize money be like $500 sometimes. Like that was how I paid my bills. And a lot of that you're in the breakaway with someone and you have to like bully them, or you have to trick them into pulling when they shouldn't pull. And that's I was glad when I stopped racing in the world tour. I had buddies just like, oh, let's go to this local race, and I didn't have a job. Like, let's pick up. Like, I was definitely gonna win if I showed up. Like,
yeah,
I'm 2 months out of the world tour doing a small race in California, but like, I don't want to be that guy anymore. I just don't want to be like, fucking pull through, you little bitch, or I'm gonna drop you on. Like, you have to say that kind of stuff because it
yeah,
works. And I don't. So now, like, it's funny when I do the group rides in LA, and there's like the one like super fast group ride. It starts with a climb, so it's already like I just go right to the front. I don't play tactics. I'm not flicking my elbow. If you go around me, you could take a pull, but like I'm not gonna sit on and sprint. I'm not gonna try to pull less than you. Like, and if we get to the finish line and you go around me, I'm happy for you. like congratulations, you just beat Phil in the sprint. I don't care. I'm there for my workout. I'm there to enjoy it as long as it's safe. And it doesn't move my needle either way to get beat.
yeah,
Yeah, it's I'm always interested.
yeah,
Yeah. Like
yeah.
I'm definitely not
That's
trying to
good.
yell at you to pull through. Like, I don't care if you don't want to pull through, don't pull through. You beat me.
Have
Like, or
you?
I'll ride you off.
Yeah, no kidding. Have you seen the movie Whiplash?
Is that the
It's like
drummer
a,
one?
yeah, he's like a jazz.
Yes.
You've seen it.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Oh, wow.
so that movie actually brought me to tears,
Hmm.
because I guess because I related so much with the drummer. My dad was a drummer,
Oh,
um,
interesting.
and so like I obviously connected with it on that level, and just understanding like how hard it is to actually hit some of those time. I'm not a jazz drummer and I'm not very good, but I had an understanding of like what was going on. But particularly with what you're saying, the lead character, I forget his name, famous actor, but he's kind of like the
I
jerk
can
in
picture him.
this. Yeah. And he's like pushing this drummer to his absolute limit. And the premise of the whole movie is like, it doesn't really say that this is the truth, but it alludes to the fact that the way to reach the best is to be pushed harder and more brutally than anyone else, because it's in the absence of affirmation that you like get there. And
Yeah.
it's so fascinating to me because you can, to a degree, get there by that method,
Right.
kind of what you're talking about with cycling, and there's a level of manipulation. And honestly, I think some of the biggest businesses in the world, like back when Apple was actually innovative, like when Steve Jobs was doing it, he was known for being ruthless and kind of a jerk.
I just
And
picked up my iPhone 17. What do you know?
yeah, exactly. But it's like there's got to be another way to do it, and maybe it won't make you $1 trillion, but it will definitely bring happiness and fulfillment all the way down through the people
Dude,
who
it is.
work.
There's a ton of those people. They're just not that famous.
Yeah,
There's just so many like anonymous people who made $8 million, and like, well, why would I not pay someone more who works for me if I have $8 million? What the heck do I need the ninth for?
mm,
There's a ton of that. They're just like, they're quieter, and America doesn't appreciate them as much. Like the small business owners out there who employ 5 chefs, and everyone makes a living and gets health insurance and can, yeah, there's plenty of that. There's
yeah,
plenty of that. And I think
mm,
like society gets lost on a lot of it,
yeah.
in a bummer way.
I need to meet those people, more
Yeah.
of them.
I
I mean,
same. I want to be one.
yeah,
But it's well, another thing, like, I mean, we're getting on a tangent, but the whiplash thing, like, I think about when I was 23 and I'm on Jelly Belly, and the director for that team, like, he was making a living. He had a nice house and he wasn't rich. Like, Vaughters is a better example, and I'm on that team. So, like, yeah, let's go there. I'm on Garmin Sharp. I'm making minimum salary you could pay someone in the World Tour was $50,000 a year. For that, I have to have an apartment in LA, an apartment in Girona. Like, they expect you to do the Girona thing, but I'm not going to move all my stuff there. I have a 1-year contract, and I can't afford that either. So, like, I was more broke World Tour than I was the year before when I was riding on Bissell, because I didn't have to have 2 apartments then. But like, what they expect of you is 70 race days. You're going to crash. You're going to be covered in road rash plenty of times. You will appreciate the opportunity. And the director will yell at you in your ear to go faster down the hill. And I just think about, like, just like, put myself in that guy's shoes. Like, I would never yell at 26-year-old, like the people that I hire now to, like, help me edit stuff. I'm like, what would you like to get paid for that? Okay, here is what you get paid for that, you know? And if they say a number like, I'm going to find somebody else, I can't afford that, you know? But, like, I'm not gonna be like, nah, you're gonna do it for half because I have all the cards here. And it's just, like, so like, I guess I'm grateful that I was abused in these ways for that long. But, like, I was making 2,000, like, Jelly Belly, go back to that because that's more insane. Like, I was making 2,000 a year, and, like, I got yelled at in the bus for not, like, finishing better. And it's like, yo, man, like, the guy who won made $100,000 last year. If you would have hired him if you could afford it, you hired me because you can't. It's not my fault that I can't beat the guy who's been doing this longer, who you knew was better than me when this started. Yeah. Like, how is it supposed to work? And it's crazy what people do. And, like, look back on, like, boy, why are people such dicks?
Yeah.
Like,
well, does that culture still exist? Like, is it changing at all? I mean, with more money, with more popularity in the sport, more money comes and it does trickle down, but it seems like at the top a ton. But, like, is that culture changing, do you know, in professional cycling?
I think at that level it's cutthroat. I think those guys come back and they feel like their job is on the line every 5 minutes, and, like, that's the pressure of everything. And that'd be the same for musicians and stuff like that. It's you know, you hope everyone figures it out, but and you know, the champions don't let it get to them and are able to ride it. But yeah, like, I'll talk to pros and they're like, man, I think I'm gonna get flicked this year. I'm like, but didn't you do this in April? Like, that was insane what you, and it's just like, yeah, but now it's August. You know,
you're as old as your last race,
and that's how they make you feel, and that's also kind of how it is. It's tough out there, and that's you know, it's the supply and demand of pro sports is a whole other thing that I don't miss.
So, changing gears just a little bit, one of these questions I want to ask as we come a little bit closer to the end, but what is something difficult that you're going through that people don't often see?
I mean, I guess aging, like, I hide it well in that I'm still performing in a certain way. And, like, the number of people like, oh, you got to go back to Mount Washington was, like, interesting to me intellectually, just in the, like, they don't understand that I can't ever go that fast again. And, like, it's a thing I've had to accept, but either I hide it well, or, you know, people don't pay that much attention. But that part of it of, like, you know, I used to do 70 race days a year at a certain level. Well, now, like, I'm just as good as that, but I could do that 5 times a year. You know, like, if I'm going to hit those numbers, it's not day in, day out anymore. And, you know, it's 5 times a year. And I did 2 world-class efforts this year, and that's going to be it. And that's better than most people ever. But that's what that is. And one day it's going to be 0. And we all have to make peace with that. And you can't just, like, decide to do better because you want to, or you're going to try harder. Like, if you gave it your, yeah. So I guess that would be the invisible one.
Yeah. When you do come to that place where your identity in terms of what you do will shift and change, do you think that that'll be pretty hard for you? Or do you think that you've got it figured out?
I don't know. I mean, with sports, the good news is, like, you see it coming the whole way. You know, like, you always know that there's an arc to sports. Like, tennis players have a certain lifespan, pro cyclists have a lifespan. So, like, I'm thankful that I made it 10 extra years. Like, it's kind of been, I could have very well been done when I stopped racing, which is what so this retirement thing has let me kind of drag that on, and at least, like, monetize it and have a few more years and get to do what I want, have a nice lifestyle, that kind of thing. But I guess my North Star since I retired has been this kind of this travel show and cycling as a lifestyle and as health and fitness. And I've slowly been able to put that more into my videos. I don't know if you watched my Tour de France series, but like, every episode, like here's something interesting historically. Here's some food, here's some
Emily's plant
wine, here's
corner.
cheese. Yeah, I included my family, like we got the dog in there if it's home or it's someone else's dog in France. Like credits are always a different local dog. And like, here's the things that like I really want to share. And then like, fine, you want me to go up a hill fast? I could do that too. Like here's me doing 38th up on 2 or whatever. And that's, I don't know what they're clicking on, but hopefully over time they'll be interested in the cheese and my wife and that stuff, or I'll trip them into that. When I can no longer do, or they'll be like, yeah, 75th on Ventoux is pretty good because he's 45 now.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Do you find that the majority of people that follow you are within your age range of 5, 6, 7 years? Like,
yeah, honestly, I don't look. Sponsors ask for analytics, and I send them screenshots, and I don't really look at it. I don't, and I'm not sure what that. Maybe I should. Like, I think you're probably supposed to know that stuff, but like the analysis on YouTube, you can go so deep into locations. Like, I just don't want to start. I don't want to subconsciously feed that. I want to do what I believe in. Like, I can look at my videos, and you can tell the minute they clicked off. And it's like, if my audience drops off 70%, like whatever I was doing there, I should probably stop. But like, if I watch through the edit and like, I like everything I did there and I think that was funny and like, I don't think it dragged here and I think this was important to say and then I want to keep it in. And as long as I can keep doing that, I will.
I respect that. And honestly too, because the people who are going to be, the 30% that continue to watch, something I've learned is that it's that small community that end up being like the mass spreaders of whatever it is you're preaching. So like those people is what it really matters, because people who clicked off probably missed something else. So
yeah, are you gonna change who you are for the people who don't like you?
Exactly.
That seems, you have to think about like, oh no, definitely not.
Yeah. I would bet too that as you do go along that journey and kind of change the way that you present things, I think people do like that. I think of, I don't know, Lionel Sanders because he's really huge and everybody will know him. But the stuff that performs the best is usually like the day in the life, follow along things, because I think that's what makes you or him or anyone else relatable, because you can see, oh, well, it reminds us, oh, they're human and we can relate to them.
Yeah.
They're not just super athletes that all they do is crush watts. And so I imagine that will perform well.
No, I
and
think
if it doesn't,
you build personal relationships with whoever the followers are. And like, I really like when that's 2 ways, but like just walking around Big Bear, someone like will just say hi to my dog. They're like, oh, hey, creature. It's like, how do you know? Like that's never going to get old, and that's whatever I don't know if that's worth anything, but that it does, it counts.
Yeah.
There's indicators.
Yeah.
So that's the North Star anyway.
Yeah. So I want to ask you for a piece of advice kind of to anyone listening to close it out. For somebody who is truly considering, like, I think I may have asked you this last time. If I did, oh well. Hopefully people listen to it again.
My answer's probably different.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, like we haven't talked in quite a while with this stuff, so maybe it will be a little bit different. But what is a piece of advice you would give to somebody who is not thinking about necessarily being a pro cyclist, but like, oh, this is the dream job that I want, to go be a creator? What kind of a thing would you give to them?
I learn what it is first. I guess the thing that when I wanted to be a pro cyclist, I didn't know any pro cyclists. When I wanted to be a YouTuber, I didn't know any YouTubers. And I think in retrospect, I should have somehow found access to people who were actually doing it to A, know what I was getting into, and B, to learn how to do it. And there's definitely like a lot of people that I open the kimono for and show like, here's what pro, like that's what the books were like, here's what pro cycling is really like. I want people to know that before they go down this. And a lot of people were just like, well, I was trying to be a pro, and then I read your book. I was like, I don't want to do that. And that's good. Like if you can be talked out of it, you're welcome. Because part of the prerequisite is that you can't be talked out of something like that. And the same for YouTube. I think if I'd looked at like, oh, this is the, instead of buying the wrong cameras 6 times and buying the wrong mics, all that evolves and everything's different. But my arcs were always slow because I kind of had to bang my head against them. I live in LA. There's people who know how to do this stuff. and I thought I could figure it out myself and have a little respect for what the thing is, to look into it.
Yeah.
That was probably nothing like my previous answer.
No, that's good. I like it. There's
Yeah,
wisdom in a multitude of counselors. I've seen that to be the truth.
there
Even
we go.
though, as an entrepreneur, sometimes the naivete of jumping into something gives you the blind confidence to start, and then once you get in so deep, you're like, oh, I have to finish. So
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
that as well.
I'm interested in what changes with you. Like, you're just a very thoughtful guy. What changes with you with when the kid comes? Um,
Less sleep, trying
'Cause
to figure out how to survive.
well, there's that. There's
Yeah,
time, but like there's priorities and what you'll funnel your energies into,
yeah.
because it's finite, and
Hmm.
like I I've been shocked at how soft I've become just from getting a dog. Like,
Yeah,
I'm a pathetic, like, we're not gonna do kids, and I put that energy into the dog, and like I don't think I'm that obnoxious, but I know I'm pretty obnoxious. It's
yeah.
it's just it's crazy how much I love the dog,
No, yeah.
and I
I
never would have
watched your
thought I'm
journey. Yeah,
capable
with
of
that.
that. And yeah, now it's like I don't want to be away from home that long because she can't FaceTime.
Yeah,
Like, I can call my wife, I can't call the dog.
yeah,
And it's weird that I have a gravity at age 39, or
yeah,
I guess 35 was when I got her.
yeah.
But it's like, okay, this is interesting.
Yeah, we'll see. It is interesting because my wife, we were laying in bed the other night and she thought she felt a kick for the first time. And like I've
Well,
seen pregnant women and been around babies, and we've all been around them our whole lives because that's how our world perpetuates. But
yeah.
now considering like, oh, this is my thing, or this came from me and now it's growing in her, like I am a pretty risk taking person. I have a high risk tolerance, except for now as I've gotten a little bit older, when I see like a child or toddler walking next to a curb, like I'm like, and I know I'm gonna have to kind of reel that back in a little bit
Yeah.
because I feel like overly protective. So there's that aspect of it, because I don't want to be a helicopter parent, and I know my mom wasn't, because man, I did some crazy stuff. um, so it's like, how do I find the
Yeah.
balance in that? But with sport, I told Ashley, my wife, because I've been pretty heavy into this now for 5 years. I was like, if I'm going to commit to saying I'm not going to race next year, if something comes up and we feel like it's appropriate, then great. I still want to be active.
Uh-huh.
And maybe there's parts of me that still want to race, but I think that it will be worth my time, and I will not regret, from all the people I've talked to, spending a little extra time in these formative years being there. Because it just, the last thing I'll say, with losing the dad thing, seeing my sisters in particular grow up from ages 12 and 4, without that presence, like a true fatherly presence, I think it's a lot harder for girls in a lot of ways
Huh.
because they don't know how to relate to like what a good man, or sometimes even a bad man, should be. So I really want to make sure I'm invested in that realm. And Ironman has caused more divorces probably than many sports. I'm not even
Yeah.
kidding. So there's that to consider, but we'll see. I'd be
Yeah.
happy to share. Yeah, in any way.
Yeah. We'll see you. We'll see you at Whiskey Tango or not next year.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll
I need to get a
understand.
mountain bike, dude.
There we
That
go.
was so amazing, but man, going down some of that stuff on those little 35s, I was like, okay, well, at any second
There's
I
the
could
one
be.
descent that, yeah, 35s. Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah, that was a lot. There was one descent that like gets my shoulders every year, and I wish I had a hardtail for. And the
yeah,
rest of it, like, people message me like, "Is a hardtail okay?" I'm like, actually, in some places you will prefer it, and you're absolutely welcome to bring a hardtail.
yeah,
Well, it's a gravel thing, but softer tires are for sure ideal.
yeah.
Um,
Hopefully we get to do it next year.
cool.
But well,
No,
Phil, thanks
congrats,
so
man.
much
Yeah,
for, yeah, I appreciate you taking the time, diving in deep with me. And not many people ask me questions, and I do appreciate it. Although I do judge a success of a podcast by how little I talk sometimes. But I appreciated that. It was fun to answer.
people click on it for the guest, but like, you're the common denominator in all your episodes. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think you should be afraid to let yourself out.
Oh, thanks, man. I
Um,
appreciate that.
cheers.
All
All
right.
right, cool, buddy. Great to talk to you.
You too. Oh man, what a fun episode. Thank you so much, Phil, for coming on. And I'm just now realizing, by the way, that I ate spaghetti before this. So halfway through the episode, I noticed I had spaghetti sauce all over my face. So that's the life we're living. But thanks for being here. Thank you so much to Phil again. It was really fun to get to re-dive into some deep topics with him. He's a deep thinker, a deep influencer in a lot of ways, is able to share the things that he is passionate about in a really cool way. He's a great communicator, really awesome content. So go make sure to check that out. And yeah, just really appreciate him being here to demystify a little bit what it's like to be a creator and to live in the world that he does. So thank you guys for being here. Really appreciate it. And we will catch you in the next one. Peace.